Regardless of any religious affiliation or faith, many of us enjoy a lovely chocolate treat at Easter. However, you might think it's a bit strange we mark one of the most sacred, if not the most sacred festivals of a major religion with egg-shaped sweet treats. Which led me to being asked, why do we do it? Well, it's something I have to admit that I didn't really know the answer to, so I dusted off my researching hat and went into the history mines, by which I mean the internet, to see what I could find. And, well, the first thing I found out is that the tradition of decorating eggs is old. Like, really, really old. There are fragments of decorated eggshells from 60,000 years ago found in what is now South Africa. And these are ostrich rather than chicken or chocolate, and are engraved and coloured. It's likely these eggshells, tough and robust and helpfully shaped, were used for storage or for carrying food and water. Getting the use out of everything is a mark of humanity in times gone by, and until very recently in the past in the West too, and it's still the case in many parts of the world. So turning a rich protein-filled meal into a useful bucket or pot seems perfectly sensible, and if you're going to be surrounded by something particularly that's going to last, decorating it so that it's cheerful, that seems perfectly sensible too. Ostrich eggs were also used, and their shells beautifully decorated for display and storage in parts of North Africa and the Mediterranean world. For example, there's a wonderful, possibly funerary egg, possibly jar, possibly vase, possibly pot, found in the city of Ur, which is in modern day Iraq, from as long ago as 4,000 or 5,000 years, and some evidence that such things were used for a long time before that. There were others found somewhat more recently, but still several millennia ago in, again, North Africa and Mediterranean world, particularly by the Egyptians and the Phoenicians, but there's plenty of evidence that people as diverse and as civilized and as advanced, particularly compared to, for example, my ancestors on this small island of Britain, as Persia and Greece and the Romans, as well as the Egyptians and the Phoenicians and the people of Assyria and sort of the ancient Near East. They were all decorating eggs which were probably given as gifts or as decoration, or given to the gods, or just as a tasty and well decorated treat. It's not a modern phenomenon to want your food to look really appealing. Some Greek eggs, in fact, were decorated like their pots, and some pottery was made to mimic the shape of ostrich eggs, and these eggs were sometimes painted to resemble black figure vases and pots and ceramic that you might be familiar with from visiting museums and from looking on the internet. So, of all things, why decorate eggs, and why during the springtime? Well, eggshell provides a great surface. It's got a smooth firmness, it's got a light colour generally, so it takes paint and pigment well. You can dye it so that it doesn't just take it on the outside, it sort of sucks all the way through. It takes decoration and is surprisingly robust. It's a really good shape. Spring is also a time when chickens and other domesticated birds, and birds more generally, will start to lay eggs, or to start to lay more eggs. So there are, if not an excess of them, there are more of them, and if you've been keeping chickens or ostriches or whichever birds over the winter, they may well have stopped laying, and you sort of marking the new eggs, the new year, the new spring. The egg is, and often has been, considered to be a symbol of new life, fertility, rebirth. It plays a main role in many creation myths, from the beginning of the universe, or with the first being or deity hatching from an egg. I can't be the only person that remembers the classic and somewhat simplistic story of the Monkey King born from an egg, through the rather wonderful but very hammy television series of my youth. However, there's also a really practical reason, as well as a sort of traditional decorative reason, why Christians might decide to paint and use eggs in Easter, and it's a mixture of practicality and humour that characterises a lot of medieval European life, medieval life more generally, and that's that during Lent you can't eat eggs. So all of those eggs which have been laid, you're not going to waste, because wasting is just not something you can do. You don't have enough resources to be wasteful. So if you've got chickens that start to lay or are laying more eggs, and you need to preserve them, and then you have Easter and you can start eating eggs again. Well, it's not just a celebration, but you've got these boiled and pickled and preserved and salted eggs that can be richly decorated to make a tasty treat and a tasty, delightful centerpiece. The tradition of painting eggs is perhaps borrowed from antiquity, or if not borrowed, it's a continuation of older traditions perhaps. But the Orthodox Church traditionally painted eggs red to represent the blood of Christ, and they've done that for hundreds, if not thousands of years, well, for a very, very long time. In some Germanic areas, eggs were painted green. Sometimes the shells were pierced and blown, so it was just the egg shell, and that could be hung from a tree or as a decoration. They might be boiled with onions to take on that rich golden hue, not just on the outside, but permeating all the way through the through the shell. And for the more ordinary person, this might be sufficient, but not so much for the very wealthy and aristocratic. In 1276, Eleanor and Simon de Montfort bought 3,700 eggs for their celebration. In 1290, Edward I accounts show that he paid to have 450 eggs decorated. Not as many eggs, but these are decorated with gold leaf. Considering how keen medieval people were on food to make to look like other things, conceits, or just to look attractive and rich, decorating eggs may not seem especially surprising. So the tradition of decorated eggs, the spectacle of decorated eggs, is older perhaps than we might think, but these were traditionally ostrich or chicken eggs rather than being delightful chocolate eggs, and if I'm honest, I think I prefer a chocolate.